not many financiers get excited when they hear about lending to agriculture. But we've been keenly following the digital finance space, you know. It's just like we've been peeping out of the window and just waiting for the right time to get in, you know. The theme of this conference, you know, I've been hearing a buzzword, you know, disruption of the business. And this is something which really excites me, you know, but I'm still waiting and hoping that when is this disruption going to take place in the agricultural sector or the SME sector? And that's why, you know, this time I told my neighbor Jared, you know, because we just walk on the same floor, right? Oh, Jared, I think it's about time that we start getting the attention of fintechs. There's so much innovation going on. Well, what about us? What about those low-income segment markets that most of these fintechs don't like venturing into? So that's the reason why I'm here today. And with me, I have a panel of experts, let me call them that way. I will give them a minute or two to introduce themselves very quickly. I'll start from my right.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Kanyoko. I am the Operations Manager at Eastern Africa Farmers Federation. Eastern Africa Farmers Federation represents about 20 million farmers in East and Central Africa. And I'm glad to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Naomi Dele. I am the SME and Agribusiness at KCB Bank Group. It's KCB Bank because it's a group. So and I'm glad to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Rafa Kwe. I work for an institution called NESP, that is Micro Enterprises Support Program Trust. The trust under the government of Kenya in the Royal Danish Embassy. We are a development finance institution where we do our lending through financial intermediaries, and also we support the agricultural value chain. We are experts in value chain development financing. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, my name is David Cracknell. I'm the Global Technical Director for Microstate, a consulting company in the financial sector based around the world, but our Africa operations run from Kenya, so I've been around for a long time.
Thank you, David. I'm not being very modest. If you look at David's profile, I think your profile should be probably the size of this handle. But yeah, David, basically, let me just introduce the conduct of this session. David will make a keynote address, and then you join the panel, and then we'll have some specific questions to the panelists, and then we'll open the discussions to the rest of the audience. So without further ado, I know the MC is very keen on the time. So David, let me just elaborate a little bit on your profile. Like you said, he was from Microstate, he's the Global Director for Technical Excellence. He leads a growing team of professionals. He has over 20 years experience in the financial inclusion, banking, and enterprise development. I'll jump a few paragraphs, but I want to go straight to the part where you talk about you led the advisory team for Equity Bank. I think most of you know the revolution that Equity Bank had, and David was part of that process. And as well as Safaricom's pilot test. So he's been there. He's been there, he's done that. So David, without further ado, I'll come to you. You can give your keynote address from where you are.
Okay.
David, who is yours?
Thank you very much. I'm usually a PowerPoint addict, but a keynote address is normally some kind of speech, so I've actually written it down, which is a very strange thing for me to do. So yes, I'll use this as a base and I'll read from this, but I might extemporize from time to time. So one of the things that we know is the financial sector is undergoing a digital revolution, driven by technology, by data, by millennials, by communications. These factors have underpinned the growth of alternative payment channels, M-Pesa and agent banking. So, which these in turn powered parts of the financial technology revolution. In this keynote speech, I'll demonstrate that SME lending is changing fundamentally due to the convergence of data. This change is happening quickly in the process of lending itself, in how we lend, and more slowly in decisioning who we lend to and how much we lend. In agricultural finance, agricultural technology can add significant further value. Lastly, I'll mention these changes have significant implications for policy and regulation. So if we start by looking very quickly at traditional SME lending, lending to SMEs in Africa has had a checkered history, characterized by insufficient supply of credit to the sector, this so-called missing middle that we talk about. Insufficient supply of credit was compounded by loan losses. These are relatively common, especially in institutions even new to the sector, or rapidly scaling up their lending, or in managing a change to or from centralized to decentralized lending models. Credit risk has been managed through the diversification of risk by sector, by geography, and most critically, based around the experience of loan officers backed up by a paper trail of information and credit scorecards and things like this, basic analysis. But ultimately, much of the SME lending has relied upon security. Is there something that we're securing the loan against? So, information today is transforming the process. Information today is transforming. Okay. I think it's beginning to. Okay. Hello? Okay. So information today is beginning to transform the process of lending. In this section, we'll walk through a loan and see how data management is transforming lending. So we've got a loan application, and a loan officer enters a national ID number on an app on his smartphone. The national ID database is polled, and the loan form is automatically filled. Using this information, a credit reference is made. Documents can be scanned and pictures taken. At this stage, the Chattels registry can be checked for ownership of assets or any existing lien on those assets. Geotagging confirms the client's location and the location of any assets, which later may be securitized. So, we started just with a loan application, and instead of the person coming into the branch, everything's been done in the field, and by the time the loan officer comes back to the branch, part of the loan application has already been made. Loan processing. An initial screening is made on the data collected by the loan officer and data on default rates on similar customers. So even at this early stage, we may not be able to say yes to that loan, but we can probably say if they're unlikely to meet the criteria. So we can also, if we've scanned in the balance sheets and profit and loss accounts of this particular institution, we can do some automatic analysis on the financial statements. So we've only really just got to the loan application stage, and we've already started doing some basic analysis. For agricultural lending, we can combine agtech and fintech. Agtech data can inform lending decisions through assessing soil health, reviewing data on seed pricing and usage, providing yield information, and even commodity pricing, commodity forecasting. Index-based weather insurance is now more reliable, based on satellite imagery at extremely high resolutions. There was a time when you had resolutions at 100 meters square. Now you can do 10 meters, 1 meter. So we can do things today that we couldn't do before. Real change is happening. KCB recently launched MobiGrow with assistance from MasterCard Labs to facilitate access to finance to 2 million farmers in Kenya and Rwanda. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. So assuming this first level of screening has been passed, then the loan file, now a digital file, can be reviewed by experienced officers who understand more about the contextual risks of lending to a particular type of SME. Even this role will, over time, be informed by machine learning, artificial intelligence. Securitization, with land and collateral registries consolidating on blockchain, securitization will be much quicker and less costly. People don't move security around in Kenya because it's expensive to lodge the security with a bank. So it means that if my bank, let's say I'm with CBA, and I lodge my security with CBA, I'm likely to continue lending from CBA because of the cost of securitization. So once we've got this information now on a blockchain database, I see two key benefits. The volume of titles and assets which can be collateralized increases. And secondly, the ease with which this collateral can be repledged once that loan is fulfilled will be much greater, which means much greater competition in the for SME loans. Okay, that's the core process. But using information to decide who to lend to. So I'll give some examples of information-based lending, the use of alternative data sets, and critically making data work. We saw the picture of the Bugatti and the potholed road. That's really what I'm talking about. Information-based lending. So let's look at two quick examples of information-based lending, where information itself is the basis against which to lend. So, given the agricultural theme, Umati Capital works with dairy cooperatives to supply credit to farmers. A dairy farmer supplies milk to the cooperative, which is valued based on cream content, quantity, and freedom from parasites. The farmer waits perhaps to the end of the following month to get paid. Well, Umati Capital can use that information once the milk has been delivered and certified. They can pay the farmer immediately at a discount. So Umati Capital is able to transfer that information stream into money. Coco uses the information it has on merchant payments to provide working capital to merchants based on their ability to repay. Coco draws repayments for the working capital from the merchant payments they receive and they process. So they're translating their merchant payment stream of information directly into loans. These two cases show how information is the new money, in this case payment information. It's my prediction that information related to payments, and specifically information related to supply chains, is going to transform access to working capital to some SMEs. Financial institutions combined with fintech companies currently in the process of monetizing some of these supply chains. So we had a conversation before lunch about alternative information, but I think it's quite controversial. Currently, 3.7 million, and this is as of I think May or June, 3.7 million Kenyans have been negatively listed due to failing to repay nano credit, small loans taken over the fund. So how important is the alternative data set? Because we know that nano loans get bigger if we keep on repaying them. So even in this nano loan industry, the fundamental driver, the biggest weighting, is being put to have you paid off your last immediate, very, very small loan. If someone was really rating your ability to repay, why is it you have to start off with a loan of a few hundred shillings? Doesn't make sense. So why is alternative data controversial? In my view, it's because of the concept of informed consent. Much of the data being gathered about us is shared without our explicit knowledge, on the basis of permissions we've provided on the use of apps and services. who amongst us have actually read the terms and conditions applying to the use of Microsoft software? Or look at your iPad, yeah? Or your WhatsApp or your Mshwari account. Yet, with permission given for us to use an app, information about us is shared. Yeah? That's not informed consent. In my view, the use of alternative data is controversial because we lack the framework for handling this data. Europe recognised this in the passing of the General Data Protection Regulations, which is a framework for collection and use of data on individuals in the European Union. We have to move towards some of those guidelines here, and indeed steps are being taken. So, moving up from nano credit, are there ways in which information can be collected and analysed for SMEs? And the answer is yes. We've already discussed the use of payment information, but in addition to this, there's lots of things that we can do. SMEs are using accounting systems. Can we have review level access to those accounting systems, management accounts, so that we can actually take a look at how that business is doing? So software interrogation could provide important information such as cash flow analysis, cost of sales, turnaround time on debtors, things like this, payments being made to other providers of credit. But also through banking apps running on a mobile phone, a whole set of high-level data can be collected. Now clearly, with my issues around informed consent being looked at. Making data work. Putting data to work requires the ability to analyse data sets, the application of risk-based pricing and digital transformation. So, we must be able, when we're collecting data, to actually analyse the use of these data sets and use these data sets. Most financial institutions are still in the early stages of doing this. This is mostly because structurally few banks have the data in the right form to actually analyse it. I was in Indonesia, and I was at a large bank in Indonesia, BRI, and they have millions and millions of customers. And I was with an Indian fintech. And he asked the chief information officer, he said, okay, I want to run this query, and how long would it take your financial institution to come back with the data? And the chief information officer said, that'll take about 2 days. It uses a lot of system time. Okay, he said, I'm going to ask from here, and he was in Indonesia, his operations were in India, and he had hundreds of thousands of accounts. I'm going to ask from here the same question. And he said, I'm using semi-structured data. It's not going to be 100% accurate, it's 99-point-something% accurate, but that's good enough for most management decisions. 40 seconds later, the answer came. That's the power of having data in the right structure. So, for quite a long time, the only banks in Kenya with chief information officers were Equity and KCB. So, even once we have this data, there's limited capacity. Few institutions have the ability to analyse their own data sets or create algorithms and apply machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we're still in those very, very early days. But there's something more fundamental to my mind. What I'm about to say is slightly political in the context of the Kenyan financial sector. We must use information to apply risk-based pricing. We're moving in a world in which we can realistically assess risk through information. This should mean that, subject to ability to pay an assessment of risk, that the supply of credit can be significantly increased. But this is where we move into direct conflict with the interest rate cap that applies in Kenya. How can you apply risk-based pricing, which all this information is leading us to, if you can only lend to the very best risks in the system? It doesn't make sense. So, the last part in this section is we must have digitally enabled banks. Digital lending requires institutions which are ready for digital banking, which means digital strategy, it means design, digital design, it means partnerships. and it needs systems and staff ready to analyze data. The right environment. As a final aspect of this keynote speech, I'll summarize the need for a right environment for this digital transformation from a policy perspective and a regulatory perspective. Firstly, we must have an environment where we have data protection enforced by legislation, fraud prevention by design, consumer protection, and digital consumer rights by default. Secondly, we need to respond to the potential abuse of digital financial services from any player in the ecosystem. Thirdly, we need to look at a legal and regulatory system which can adjust rapidly. Regulations which move from a rule-based system around institutional type, so this is a bank, and this is how we regulate banks, to principles based on the type of financial service being provided. So we need to move to a principles-based system. We need a regulatory system which can rapidly respond to this changing environment. This could mean, for example, sandboxes. It could mean moving to a Twin Peaks system, a financial conduct authority, or rethinking how financial conduct is managed in a digital future. So information in the form of data is the new money of the future, but only if we can use it. That's the end.
Thank you so much, David, for that thought-provoking address. It's unfortunate that it's not a PowerPoint presentation, and I think for that reason, before we lose some of those points or salient issues that he raised, I want to quickly open the floor. You may ask David any questions related to some of the issues or views that he raised. So I want to give the audience 10, 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 5 minutes to react to David's keynote address. I can see a hand.
I'm Alex Pankuchin from Tala. I thought it was a really interesting point that you made, that the idea of risk-based pricing kind of directly contradicts implementation of interest rate caps. I was just wondering if you had to anticipate how an oppositional view would rebut that argument, how would you respond?
Okay. I think that a rationale for interest rate caps can be made from the fact that the Kenyan financial sector is inefficient and there's a high margin between deposits and lending, and that structurally we need to enforce and move towards a more efficient industry. But I struggle with that argument. I think it's there, I think it's important. But still, financial institutions are supposed to be intermediating money. And that is based on management of risk. You take the management of risk away, you take away a function of the financial system. So I still struggle with that. I think there are arguments that can be made, but I'm not really convinced by them.
Thank you, David. As you're still mulling on other questions to ask David, I quickly want to shift focus to the panelists. And I'll start with the lady in the panel, Naomi. Naomi works for KCB, and recently they launched MobiGrow, which is an agri-focused digital finance platform. Personally, for me, from a Africa's point of view, I was very excited because this has always been my wish. I've always wanted to see a bank actually innovating and taking some of these innovations, to what I call the low-income segments. Because, like you've heard most of the innovations are still targeting the same market segment of salary consumers. But Mobigro did something different. I know we mastered that. Your launch was very quiet, very subdued. I don't know, maybe it's because of the competition, but probably you would want to just tell us about Mobigro. What are the lessons so far?
Thank you, John. Maybe just a little brief about who KCB is, for those who are not Kenyan. And KCB, like I said, is a group. We are a bank in 6 countries now: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and recently Ethiopia. And in the group we have KCB Insurance Agency, we have KCB Capital, and KCB Foundation. So we call ourselves KCB Bank, though KCB itself is Kenya Commercial Bank because of the identity in the other countries around East Africa. So Mobigro, like you said, we launched about maybe 6 weeks ago, a quiet launch. We call it a soft launch. But at the back, we have been working in partnership with MasterCard Foundation to reach out to smallholder farmers, 2 million smallholder farmers in Kenya and Rwanda. And Mobigro is, we call it Mobigro program because it's two-faceted. In KCB, our purpose as a bank is to simplify the lives of customers to enable their progress. So we are very keen on financial inclusion. So when we looked at our portfolio of customers, one of the people or groups of people that we haven't quite reached out to is farmers, and specifically women and youth. So in this program, Mobigro, we are targeting those groups of people. And like I said, it's two-faceted in the sense that in the financial inclusion model, we are looking at getting them to open a basic account, because we realize KCB, with its large network, we have 200 branches in Kenya, 800 ATMs, we still are not able to reach the 8 million, 11 million farmers in the rural, deep rural areas of Kenya. So then how do we reach them to have a basic account? So in that model, then the technology kicks in. And we've been working to get these people to open an account without having to come to the bank. So with the help of a basic feature phone, these people are able to use a USSD code, open an account, and be able to transact without having to move from their farm. So that is the one aspect where in the broader financial inclusion program, we seek to give them an account, we seek to give them a savings option, and we seek to give them a loan option. But the account is critical. So in that rural area where even the telecommunication is a challenge, how then do they open that account? So what we have come to realize is in some of those rural areas, as much as in the urban and the peri-urban, people have more than one phone, more than one SIM card, a phone could be shared by several households. So you will have one phone, and in a family of 5 or 6 different SIM cards, the children are not probably use the mother's ID to get a SIM card. So when you look at who is the real owner of the account, it becomes a real challenge, because you're using we use IPRS to identify the customer. So if you have one ID number that has several SIM cards, are you dealing with one individual, or are you dealing with many individuals? So it's one of the things that we as we got into launching the program, we realized some of the challenges that we need to address in order to scale up. In the second aspect of Mobi Group, which is the non-financial arm of the program, we seek to bring financial literacy to those people who are unbanked. Just demystify, what is banking? What is it they need to do to be able to get that loan, even though they don't have to come to the bank? And also in that, considering that we're dealing with farmers, bring in the financial, agricultural knowledge, good farming practices, weather patterns, things that are key in having good harvests. How do you deal with inputs? How do you deal with pesticides? How do you get your produce to the market? So all that is in the literacy program, which is the non-financial arm of Mobi Group. So I had started talking about some of the challenges, and I think one of the key one is that sharing of phones. We've also noticed this cultural, especially in Kenya, there's a cultural aspect where the phone, of course, belongs to the man. And when you call, or the lady had the phone and they made an inquiry, and probably the phone was taken by the man, and you call. And the man is like, why are you looking for my wife? So it also becomes another challenge, because then you don't know what you have started in a family. Who is this calling you from a bank? Which bank are you talking to? And why are you talking to the bank? So some of those cultural things are also a big challenge. When it comes to the actual saving and loan product, we notice that in those rural areas, the children, of course, are engaged in labor. So they earn, and they earn through M-Pesa. But this M-Pesa record, because you must have an ID, is their mother's ID. So when they actually try to borrow, they're not able to borrow, because you can only borrow using, your ID, you can only borrow one loan at a time. So again, that aspect of phone sharing is a real challenge. And of course, literacy levels. We all assume that when you get a message, you can read and understand what the message is all about. So when you receive a message, open an account, or you can access a loan, are we really communicating to these people? So literacy is also one of the things that we hope to address through the financial, the literacy and the knowledge aspect of Mobi Group. There's also the element of when we're dealing with these farmers, it's become a real challenge to deal with individual farmers. So we'd rather work with groups, farmer groups. So even mobilizing those farmer groups, right at the grassroots, you have to pay people to bring the farmers together. Yes, there are farmer producer organizations out there, but they also have their interests. Why they bring those farmers together? They're either aggregators collecting the field, the harvest from the field, and in that way they have interests from the farmer. So you find you're competing with these farmer producer groups out there who are supposed to be bringing the farmers together. A recent and a very rampant one is fraud. SIM swap has become a real big challenge. And of course, we notice that some of these accounts are getting very huge transactions, so an avenue for money laundering. So with all these risks, then we have to step back and say, are we doing the right thing? I mean, you don't want to go against regulation. You don't want to also get into aspects that are going to get you into litigation. So all this fraud, all this illiteracy, all the sharing and cultural aspects have taken us a while to put together, and then we were able to launch about 6 weeks ago.
Okay. Thank you, Naomi. Maybe before I give the audience a chance to respond to your sentiments, I'll quickly want to shift to Raphael. Raphael, you work for MEST, Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust, and your organization focuses largely on SMEs, another underserved segment, let me say, by the fintech. What are your views on, probably what our user David said, on information-based lending for SMEs? Is it a far-fetched theory? Is it a possibility? What are your views on that?
Thanks, John. Good afternoon again. Maybe just a recap, I work for MESP, the Development Finance Institution. I think, John, what you asked is a fundamental question. And if information-based kind of approach is needed, I think the answer I can say to the affirmative is yes. And what you realize and you appreciate, one of the major hindrances to the SMEs is credit access. Why is that? You find most, especially for quality and financing, they are considered as a risk. They considered as a risk because you find it's the model that is used is one cloth fit all, which is not necessarily the case. They say the customer is always right, but the best and the right way to serve customer is through analytics. Analytics will involve using data so that now you're able to segment the kind of niche that you're supposed to serve. This provokes other buttons, one of them being product development. And product development will ensure that all those pain points are able to be hit. So from where we sit, information-based approach is the way to go. And as maybe David indicated, there's that issue of maybe in terms of the other alternative information, issue of negative listing. The information should be able to be segmented in such a way that is used for positive lending. This now triggers the issue of risk-based pricing, and this now goes to the scoring. So whereby the pricing is based on the history of that client, and also in line with their socioeconomic habits, and also it goes ahead to look even at the sectors they work for. And I think also I'd like to point out on the issue of the partnerships. You find most financial institutions, given the regulatory regime, maybe somehow they are not able to serve this niche. Some development finance institutions like ourselves and others, there are some partnerships in terms of guarantee scheme, whereby you find if the cash flow lending for those particular clients is good, and for this case the MSMEs, and the collateral, because you find collateral is also one of the challenges that these clients have, then you can be able to partner so that the issue of collateral is closed in the guarantee scheme, ways of doing it. Paper guarantee in Kenya has not penetrated, but you find in other countries, even our neighbors across Uganda, it's something that is working, because there's also at the policy level, that is basically the central bank. So I think the long and short is information-based approach is the way to go for financial inclusion and socio-economic empowerment.
Thank you so much, Raphael. I'll quickly go to the gentleman on the far left, Anthony. I thought it would be good to bring a farmer's voice in this panel. Normally we're here designing and thinking about what products should serve the segment that you serve. But that's why I thought it would be good to hear your views on this. Many times when I speak to financial institutions, they always tell me, John, it's not that we don't want to lend to agriculture or to farmers, but they're just not ready. They're not ready to take up all these new technologies. But what are your views on that? And I know that the East African Farmer Federation has been working on I don't know if it's a digital platform. It's the e-granary, if I'm correct. Probably you can also give us a few highlights of the e-granary. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. The advantage of coming last is you get to say I agree with everyone. But as Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, as I mentioned, we represent 20 million farmers in 10 Eastern African countries. And how the federation works is that it's an apex organization, works For example, in Kenya, we Kenya National Farmers Federation, Livestock Association, cooperative movement. So it's been representing farmers' issues for the last 10 years. And around 2012, they decided to shift focus and start focusing on how to empower farmers in the value chain and how to empower especially smallholder farmers to run their farms as business. Kilimo biashara, for those from Kenya, I think you must have had a lot of that. So just going back to your question, even before I talk about e-granary, our experience with smallholder farmers is that they are organized. They are organized in the way what you call conventional banks don't understand. She mentioned something about groups. What we found out is that, especially in East Africa, and speaking of Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya, you will find a lot of farmers in farmer groups. So, and they will start all the way from what you call community-based organization to cooperative movement. So most of them fall in that category: farmer-based organization, community-based organizations, or what you would hear being referred to as CBOs. And in those groups, you'll find they're cohesive groups. Either they're doing a single crop, whether it's dairy, whether it's maize, whether it's beans. They have organized themselves to produce something, and they have done that for a period of time. I always like giving this example where I say, for example, most of the people in this room, if you want to go get a loan from any bank, within 2 days after providing certain information, you will get a loan because you have an income statement proving that you've been employed for some time. But then you go to the farmer. The farmer probably has been farming for the last 10 years, and maybe they have had consistent production for the last 6 years. But that information doesn't exist anywhere. So I believe the biggest challenge exists in the data. And how do you get that data digitized? That's the bigger challenge. And that's the challenge that you find a lot of development organizations trying to address, because it requires a lot of patient capital. If you go to the bank, I'm glad KCB is getting into that space, but you will realize they're working with MasterCard. So there's a lot of patient capital required to get the farmers to the level where a financial institution will look at it and say, I will look at them and say, I'll give you money to do your farming activity, because they understand what you're doing and for how long you've been doing it. So so that's the position. That's what we've discovered. In terms of farmer groups, just maybe to highlight is that you will find a lot of those groups doing table banking or some savings schemes, some merry-go-round. So there's a level of financial history that exists. It's just that it's not known, or it's not available for the banks to make a decision on. So after working with farmers, or after Eastern Africa Farmers Federation looked at all these challenges, they decided to shift focus and put together a digital platform, which is mobile-based. It's called e-granary. And the idea behind that was to address the key challenges that farmers face and make these, a farmer-owned institution or business, so to speak. And so the way it works is that the main challenge is also, finance, markets, access to certified inputs, and e-learning or e-extension. So we've put together the platform, and the idea behind that is simply link farmers to market, have them increase their income, which then means it's easier for them to start consuming financial services. So e-granary is aggregating farmers for markets. The key focus being, let's get farmers to markets that is reliable and predictable, and then it's easier then to bring financial institutions and talk to them about giving them financial services.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I've been really trying to avoid Michael's time board. He's telling me I have 5 minutes. So I think I'll take this opportunity to open the floor. If anyone wants to react to the views, shared by the panelists and from David, Please feel free. This is the time.
I think we've been at it for about 5-6 years or so, where there have been myriads of initiatives really looking at what you're talking about today, the farmers, yeah? And access to credit, different NGOs, different bodies come and try and do something, millions of dollars into each, yeah? But it's almost, listening to you, it almost sounds like 5 years down the line, we haven't moved, it's still there. If you look at access to credit for farmers, it still sits at 2%. It was the same 5 years ago when it started. So for mine, really the question is, why aren't we able to scale 5 years down the line? We're still talking about, getting data, managing, enhancing, all this kind of stuff here. But what is this thing that is hindering us from scaling from what you've already done the past 5 years? Where's the problem? What are your thoughts around that?
There are 2 or 3 things. The Kenyan Bankers Association has recently actually launched a study which actually shows that there is this credit provision gap. Clearly, yes, there are cooperatives, etc., there are institutions which are closer to farmers. But the first thing I would say is about risk-based pricing. And if we can't get risk-based pricing, if there is a cap, then credit will be constrained. And we're seeing that in Kenya. And the agricultural sector is a loser in this equation, because it means that the limited amount of credit that's available goes to the easy risks. So that's one element. Another element is we need to begin to use this new technology, these new information flows, to give credit potentially through the supply chain in different ways. And we're beginning to see that with the multi-capital. Now, the interesting thing with the multi-capital is that multi-capital has tied up with Citibank. Citibank have one branch, but using technology, they can fund different value chains using the multi-capital and their procedures and their processes. And they don't have branches everywhere. They have one branch in the country. What they have is money. So we have the ability to unlock not all of agricultural credit, but we do have the ability to unlock a lot more than we've unlocked in the past. But there is another element. Some of the challenges that were being discussed in terms of linking with farmers' groups and the costs of doing so, and the challenges with multiple phones, etc., these are challenges and problems. We need to work through these challenges and problems. These aren't new, but we have technology that can do that. But we're not applying it, we're not using it. We're not focusing on where the problems actually are. We're focusing one tier up. So this is about using technology to deal with people that have problems understanding money or understanding numbers, who are in this world of orality, where you talk money but you can't count money in the same way. And we've been working on some of these things in Microsoft. So there are solutions. The table banking. These approaches, unfortunately, are not very good for agriculture, because it means that you don't get the money when you need it. You're just helping to move the money around the group. So that in itself isn't a solution. It's a best case in terms of the worst case, because people aren't being properly served through the financial sector. So yes, MasterCard Labs can come and they can do a sort of innovation event, but the issue is, are we really dealing with some of the fundamental problems? I don't think in some cases we are. So on one level, unlock the money that exists. Okay, what do I mean? Okay, chattel registries, blockchain, this kind of thing. That helps, and that will help. Risk-based pricing, take the ceiling off, but allow people to price in risk. That will help. And then unlock the benefit of technology. We've got a lot of benefits that can happen through linking agtech and fintech. Soil quality, seeds, the certain types of seeds, the certain types of fertilizer. We need to use technology to begin to de-risk agriculture. We can do this. And I'm absolutely positive we can do this. But we can't do it with one hand tied behind our back. And unfortunately, at the moment, that's where we are.
Thank you, David. I don't know, maybe because of the interest of time, I'll probably give the mic to the panelists. You can react to his question because it's a very, very important comment. I mean, at Afranca, we've been really worried about the same thing. In fact, I remember last week I was in Rwanda for a conference and someone called what you say that digital ICT in agri-finance is a success story that requires paddle beating. Basically, that's what I was just trying to say. I mean, people, yes, we are innovating, but we are not reaching the desired scale. And that's why for me, I was very excited when I saw KCB doing something in that space because I know they have the liquidity to quickly scale up. Probably that's why I'm really excited about that. I hope it really works. So probably one parting shot from either of you before we close the session.
Thanks, John. Maybe to react on the question from the session. I think to what David has said, I think the fundamentals have not been addressed. And basically the fundamentals is in terms of the innovation, the way we do lending. I'll give a case example of a cooperative. A simple intervention of the weighing machine, the digital weighing machine. And it works in a very simple way whereby when the farmer brings in the bill, it's weighed, and then that data goes to the cooperative, and the same is sent to the farmer through a message. Now, what that does is, you find there is some form of data which the institution or that cooperative will use to be able to make advances to that particular farmer. So you find any conventional lending will not lend to that particular farmer. But because of that information, on most of the risks, they're able to be identified and dealt with at that particular time. So I think the fundamentals have not been addressed. We still have a long way to go. And also we need to change our model in terms of embracing information-based approach. Thank you.
I think the risk is real, and until everyone comes to the table and tries to address from their area of expertise. Here, I mean, when we look at the entire value chain, we're currently looking at the farmer, but there is the agro dealer, there is the input providers, the transporters, there is the storage. So if all that could be looked into, then probably the risk element will be addressed. However, when we look at the risk in terms of the interest cap, I think as much as we know that agriculture is risky, partnerships is what will work. And in partnerships here, I mean, the bank could lend, but the bank will not be able to do all that literacy. The bank will not be able to talk to the transporter, So how then do we ensure that even with that cap, that farmer benefits? And with the nature of the cyclic nature of farming, how do we also ensure that the farmer gets paid on time to be able to pay for their loan? Because at the end of the day, you said banks are intermediaries. It's not bank money, it's customer money. The customer will want, the shareholder will want their return. So that risk needs to be addressed in one way or the other.
I think, so different farming activities have got different risk profiles. So if you look at cash crop, tea, if you look at coffee, if you look at grain and dairy, so you find that dairy farmers have got easier time in terms of raising funds because of, you deliver, it's acknowledged, you're paying within 7 days. So I think even in terms of addressing the issues in the farming community, you still have to look at different sectors and see what solutions apply there. As Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, we've talked so many times about lending to smallholder farmers. And what we realize is that there are banks that tend to have a traditional approach. Give me a guarantee, give me collateral, but then there are some other financial institutions that are open to designing products that are fit, for farmers or that mirror farmers' activities. So I think the opportunity is there, and I think there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot, especially what now we say in terms of partnership, working, for example, with Eastern Africa Farmers Federation or a farm organization that represents farmers. They understand what's going on. They will tell you which groups have been, together for the last 10 years, for example, which groups, have problems with markets or have no problems with market. And the idea of partnership, I think, is very helpful in terms of bringing solutions to the agriculture sector. I believe we are still, in our opinion, at the very early stages in terms of testing the business models and business cases in the sector. And that's why we're seeing a lot of innovation. One thing that I would like to highlight is that what we've seen is that you can't just pick one aspect of value chain and solve the problem for it. And you find any agtech that is making some sort of progress is looking at almost 3-4 components of the value chain. You're looking at production, you're looking at e-extension, you're looking at markets, you're then looking at finances. So you've had a lot of agtechs just picking one thing and trying to run with it. You send an army of 200 people to go collect data about farmers and farm sizes. Then you realize a farmer with 1 acre only farms 0.5. So the fact that you have 1 acre as information doesn't help you. There's a program, for example, we are doing in Meru, and when we look at the input requests, 62% of those requests came from women, but they don't own the farm. So the idea of using the farm as collateral wouldn't hold water or wouldn't work. So there are solutions to these problems and to these challenges. There are people who know about them. Eastern Africa Farmers Federation is one of them, and other federation or farmer organizations are others. That whole idea of partnership, I think, is going to help us push certain correct solutions to the sector.
Actually, for those insights. I know we're not doing very well with time, so without further ado, Michael, in closing, first of all, let me thank my able panelists for sharing your insights. To the audience, thank you so much for listening and for your active participation. CIS, thank you so much for the opportunity.